Tonight, we're going to a dangerous area of an Amazon account so we can understand the relationship between humans and PPC campaigns. Crikey! Take a look at this.
We're face to face with a hard-hitting predator. And oh boy, this keyword means business. Its toxic venom can lead to hundreds of clicks without conversion. One bite, and it can leave you paralyzed with high ACAS for weeks.
Now, these predators won't be mucking with us. We've got the biggest predator on our side, the ad badger. Oi, easy boy.
And we're here to help you tame these beasts in the jungles of Amazon PPC.
What's going on, Badger Nation? It's Mike and Steven, and you're listening to the PPC Den podcast, the world's first Amazon advertising podcast, and your source for all the tips, tricks, and optimization strategies you need to grow your Amazon ads.
And you can join thousands of listeners and get bonus content at adbadger.com/podcast.
What's going on, everybody out there? I hope you are having a fantastic end of June. If you're listening to this when this episode first comes out. Steven, how are you doing? I still can barely recognize you without that beard.
Yeah, I'm feeling good, feeling young. I guess I'm deciding to keep my commitment to at least not get a haircut, so that'll keep growing. But yeah, the beard had to go.
Right on. Well, you need to get that surfer hairdo.
Right. Summer's coming up. Is it summer or is it still spring?
Is it summer? I honestly, did you know that it's almost July?
I did. The indicator was fireworks going off in my neighborhood last night.
It's a wild year. I am really excited over today's topic because it is something that undoubtedly every single listener has looked at. This particular thing, looked at suggested bid, had some kind of reaction to it. Should I use it? Should I not? Some kind of judgment, yes or no, and some kind of reason for that. And then potentially either never thought of it again or agonizes over it on a regular basis. Suggested bid, friend or foe?
Well, it's weird because suggested bid has been around for years, and we've talked about bid calculations a lot. We realized this earlier this week, we've never talked about the suggested bid. Basically, yes. What it is.
A user wrote in and asked about this.
So, like, number one, what is it? And number two, should I use it? And so that's what this whole episode is going to be about.
Exactly. Suggested bid, we're going to go in deep on it. And I'm actually going to look up the user who asked us about it because I thought it was really helpful. His name is Alex. What's up, Alex? Thank you for writing in. Without further ado, let's jump into what is suggested bid. Alrighty, I'm going to read to you from the sacred texts, Amazon's own definition. We're going to pick it apart. Here we go. The suggested bid provides you with an estimate of bids that have been used by other advertisers for products such as yours. The purpose of this range is to help you get started with advertising. However, if you have a specific objective in mind, we recommend that you enter a bid that will enable you to meet your strategies and then adjust your bids on your campaign performance. So that's your definition. And is that clear to you, Steven?
Yes and no. It definitely raises a couple questions. But yeah, I mean, we'll dive into that in a minute later on in the show. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, the first thing that just like comes to mind is it's an estimate of bids that have been used by other advertisers for products such as yours. I mean, it's like, who are the advertisers? What are the products?
What are their goals?
And also we're talking about keywords, right? And we've got different match types of keywords.
Mm-hmm.
So are we talking about if they're bidding on the exact same keyword and match type?
Yes.
Or is it just like this search term, a few things there.
A lot of questions come up when it comes to suggested bid. I think the spirit of suggested bid is supposed to be, if you bid this amount, you will get clicks for it.
Right.
Because your competitors are getting clicks with a similar bid.
Right.
That is supposed to be the spirit. But then you start layering on all these different factors. Your competitor's conversion rate could be completely different than yours. You could have a way better conversion rate. So if you're bidding the same as your competitor, you are throttling your own growth. Your competitors could have a better conversion rate than you. And if you bid what they're bidding, you're going to give away a lot of profits. So there's so many layers that come into the suggested bid. And so we have suggested bid, which is typically the number in the middle, sometimes in the middle, of a bid range. So a bid range, there's also not only a suggested bid, but there's also a suggested bid range. And I'm going to read the definition here too. The definition for bid range actually shows up when you mouse over the tooltip. And it says, for this particular one, the suggested bid was 70 cents. The bid range was 56 to $1.10. And it says, most ads are winning auctions at bids between 56 cents and $1.10. For this keyword or ad group, we suggest a bid of 70 cents. Increasing your bid can make your ads more competitive in auctions. So again, they're just trying to say most advertisers are bidding around 56 cents up to $1.10. So why don't you just go do it at 70 cents? That suggested bid is not always in the middle. It is between the two, but it's not always in the middle. So we have a bid range, suggested bid, and the spirit of all these things is to give you some guidance as to what your competitors are doing. And before we get into our sort of tear down of this, I see a lot of people out there. We talked about bid optimization personalities, Stephen, on the show before. It's actually one of my favorite pieces of content that we've created. I love them whenever we get a chance to take something pretty technical and combine it with something fun. We had like 7 bid personalities. We will link it into the show notes. It was actually episode 38, so long ago. Basically, we have Neglectful Natalie, someone that will go in and mass apply all the suggested bids, because Amazon's made this pretty easy to apply. They go in there, smash the mass apply for suggested bids. And then we have Anxious Andy, who's probably afraid to use them. Should they be using them? I don't know. Who never really want to do anything other than the suggested bid potentially. If they veer off, color outside the lines of the suggested bid range, what will happen to them? So suggested bids, a lot of people have wondered. Let's actually get into this and actually tear it down. And the last thing I'll say before I hand the mic over to you, Stephen, is I don't know if, the bid algorithm for Ad Badger's own Bids by Badger algorithm at one point in time actually used suggested bids as part of it. The thought process was to use it as a jumping off point. So sometimes we would, in certain situations, it would use the low end. In other situations, it would use the high end. Sometimes it would use the actual suggested bid. And, this is foreshadowing of the rest of the episode, but really it didn't work out well, because sometimes the suggested bid, the low suggested bid might be 50 cents, but we had an account that was getting loads of clicks at a grade A cost at 25 cents or 30 cents. So even that small change was much, much larger. That took things way off course.
Another thing that captured our attention was we started looking into more and more keywords, and we started paying more attention to the suggested bid range. And we saw some keywords, we were starting to see examples of keywords and accounts that we were managing where the suggested bid and so for me personally, when I'm, creating a new campaign, managing a campaign for, clients, I personally don't ever use the suggested bid. So I never really paid attention to it. But when I started paying attention to it when creating a new campaign and looking at the keywords, there's one keyword where it was like, this was the range. It was like low end was like 70 cents. High end was like $19.38. And the middle of the range doesn't land like in the middle. It can land anywhere on the spectrum. So this one was landing at like $17 for a campaign, for an account that generally spends about like $1.15 per click. So if I had just applied suggested bid, I would be bidding $17 on a keyword. That makes no sense. Like what? Like
yes,
did one person and so like part of the question now is this range that Amazon is saying, they're saying it's updated daily, and so basically on the last like 24 hours or at least yesterday's bidding, they're saying these are like the average bids that were needed by advertisers to get a click from the low end to the high end. I'm going to call slight BS on that in a minute, and we'll talk about that for why I don't think that's exactly what it is. I think that's a big part of it, but I think there's more to the story to it than just this is what other people were paying. But yeah, so if there's one person who bid $20 and that shot up the high end, I guess that could possibly be the case.
Right. Let's actually get into this question. Should you use the suggested bid? Should you use anything within the bid range? Stephen, you had some thoughts on that when we were prepping our notes. Before we do our full teardown, if you are at a conference and somebody walks up to you and is like, hey, Stephen, I had a quick question. Should I be using my suggested bid? What would you say to that person?
I would say go listen to episode 84.
There you go.
Just kidding. I mean, yeah, my quick reaction to that is I would just say if it's close to your average cost per click, sure, use it as a jumping off point.
Mm-hmm. So already go into it with knowing what you typically win clicks at.
Exactly.
And then you can sort of look at it as a comparison point. Stephen, what about people that are completely brand new and fresh? Do you have a recommendation for, hey, I've never launched a single campaign. Should I use the suggested bid?
So I do think the suggested bid is a really good idea. If someone has no idea what they should be bidding, or even what the competition is, it does give you insight on the competition for sure. Like that is the one thing that it definitively does by Amazon's definition and just by, anecdotal evidence of running it. So yeah, if you're launching a brand new campaign, you don't know your average cost per click, you don't know your conversion rates, all that stuff. And you're wondering, if you just start low and start at like 25 cents and you just kind of start inching your way up, you could see that things would get out of control pretty quickly. Opposite of that. It would take a very, very long time for them to actually start getting any traffic. Whereas if you started with a very high bid, just to kind of get the ball rolling, things could get out of control very quickly. So yeah, having that suggested bid, what I would recommend to people too is between the low end and the high end, consider your goals with this campaign and I guess what kind of growth speed of the campaign you want it to be. If you'd rather have a little bit of a slower growing campaign, but less risk of spending or wasting money, then start with the low end, kind of move up from there. If you're kind of just wanting to get things launched and just get them going and like refine afterwards with negative keywords and bid optimization, then probably start in the higher end. Maybe you can do 1 penny higher than the upper end of the range just to really make sure you're getting lots of impressions and being super competitive. And then if you want to meet somewhere in the middle, just go with the suggested bid that's right in the middle of that range.
I think there's a way to, like, the goal of being a good Amazon marketer is to almost transcend the suggested bid. It's like, when you first get started, you don't really have that sixth sense in terms of navigating the world of what your bid should be. You don't necessarily have all the tools and the habits to calculate what mathematically your bid should be. And you don't have the intuition yet to really optimize and sort of know what the bid should be based off your gut. So when you don't have those things, it's like, suggested bid can be helpful. And, we're going to get into it. We're going to refer to some of our other content, but I'm always a fan of starting lower, inching up over time, as opposed to blowing it out too quickly. It could be somewhat of a good barometer, but we're going to talk about some better things that you can do to help you really refine your own skills as an Amazon marketer. And let's get into those right here, right now. Personally, my guiding philosophy when it comes to bid optimization is you have to have something bigger than just your bid. You have to have a goal, and then you have to have an entire strategy of optimization for that bid. So I'm always a fan of using your own goals, not Amazon's goals, using your own goals, and then your strategy comes from there. So then using that real data to inform your decisions. We're going to get into some of that data in a second. But in terms of this suggested bid, we're going to talk about some weird quirks about it too, which actually take away from its value. Do you want to get into some of those additionally weird quirks, Stephen?
Yeah, but just to piggyback off your guiding philosophy of having your own goals, as an example, imagine you're selling, you're selling some kind of product, right? And you're a wholesaler with extremely tight profit margins. I mean, like your break-even ACoS is between 5 and 10%. And you're competing against other brands that are not wholesalers, they are their own manufacturer and everything. And, they've got 30% profit margins. So if you're competing against these guys and they've got lots of, they're running lots of ad campaigns, they're being aggressive with their bids, and you just jump in and you apply your suggested bid, you're probably going to end up close to like a 30-40% ACOS, and you'll just get destroyed with that, and probably fired by whoever's in charge of you,
right?
By blowing through their budget and wasting everything. So that's where the suggested bid, if you do have any campaign history, or account history, I should say, and this is part of why I prefer not to use the suggested bid, just because of these abnormalities that we're about to get into. But what I do when I'm starting off and I'm launching a brand new campaign with tons and tons of keywords, assuming none of the keywords are branded, I would look at past performance for non-branded keywords. I would look at, okay, what's my average cost per click on these keywords? And really, what should my average cost per click be? Which would basically be, as we've talked about, revenue per click times your target ACOS. That's our formula for calculating bids. I would do that at a larger level, just taking the average of like my average total sales divided by my average total clicks, and then multiply that by my target ACOS to kind of figure out what should my average cost per click be. And then that will be my starting bid. And then I'll optimize from there. I'll inch up the bids on keywords that aren't getting impressions, calculate bids for those that are getting clicks and sales, and then decrease the bids that are getting clicks and no sales. So that's my approach. Now, some of the odd observations that we've had, number one is that the suggested bid itself changes with the products in the ad group. So keep an eye on that. Next time you're creating a new ad group and you throw in a couple keywords in there and you have one product, if you add more products to the ad group, you'll see those bid changes, the suggested range is changing. Now, again, Amazon's definition is that it says the suggested bid provides the estimate of bids that have been used by other advertisers for products such as yours. So if you're switching up different variations of the same ASIN, or sorry, not the same ASIN, different variation ASINs, I should say. So, you've got different sizes of the product, different colors, whatever. I mean, your products are the same product. So it's not just advertisers. It seems to me that it's not just that suggested bid isn't just based on what other advertisers are paying, but it also seems like Amazon is almost like judging your product, because if you throw up a product with like weaker reviews, it's going to have a higher suggested bid for that product. And that's the thing, like switch out between one or two products, just like do one product, then switch to another product. And then if you have both products in the ad group, you'll see the suggested bid will kind of be like a little bit of a middle ground between them. But it seems like it's a combination of really suggested bid, how I would define it. Amazon says it's based on what other people are bidding. I would say it's based on what Amazon's going to charge you for a click, based on your product, based on the keyword. So if you have a more expensive, so if you got two different sizes of products and you throw in a bigger product, bigger size, your cost per click, your suggested cost per click is going to go up. Amazon's going to charge you more for the product that is worth more. I think because they're anticipating that you're going to have a higher profit margin, and therefore they can charge you higher CPCs for that product. Mm-hmm. That's my theory. But it could just be that Amazon, go ahead, Mike.
Google's a little bit more forthright with some of their information. Like they'll tell you what the quality score of a particular keyword is, which is a combination of your click-through rate, your landing page quality, all these different things. And your suggested bid over there will be heavily impacted by that quality score. On Amazon, Amazon gets a lot of inspiration from Google Ads. Google Ads just has had so many more years of innovating their search and display platform that it's almost impossible and they've done such a good job with it that it's almost impossible for Amazon to not be inspired by it. So to your point, there has to be some kind of similar, not has to, but it would make sense that there's some kind of similar thing on Amazon too. I mean, we've all experienced it where you're trying to send traffic to a product with a keyword that's not 100% relevant, and you just feel like you can never get it off the ground. And you're sort of being throttled and you're trying to increase the bid, but you're still not getting much traffic for it. That's a perfect example of being throttled by this quality score feature where you're trying to send something that maybe doesn't have the highest relevance or it doesn't have the highest level of historic performance. And what you're going to pay for that is going to be different than what your competitor is going to be paying for that for sure.
Right.
So suggested bid isn't so helpful in situations like that. And the fact that conversion rate can change so wildly between the top ranked product and the second and the third ranked and so on and so forth, that if somebody has a 10% conversion rate and somebody has a 5% conversion rate, if that's how it works, the first position has a 10%, the second position has a 5%, in that situation, the second position should have half the bid as the first one. Looking at a range would be completely useless in that case. So sort of, that is, again, like all these examples are to sort of loosen the hold and loosen the faith and the utility of the suggested bid. That like, yes, it's trying to show you what competitors are bidding. It doesn't always seem like that. And then even if it did show you that, it's not actually that useful because of all these different situations.
Yeah. Something else that I think is worth mentioning, and if, probably a lot of the listeners don't have the privilege of having access to multiple advertising accounts, unless you're an agency or a freelancer. But we do. And so I was running this test a few months ago and actually posted it on my LinkedIn. By the way, if you guys haven't connected with me or Michael on LinkedIn, hit us up. Shoot us messages. We love to interact with you guys. So I'm Stephen Knock. He's Michael Erickson Sheehan on LinkedIn. Anyways, I noticed that I had a one account that is selling vegan supplements and another product that is selling male grooming items. And just as an experiment, I tried adding a keyword for the vegan supplements, or I added like a vegan supplemental keyword, and I also added a male grooming keyword.
In the vegan account?
In the vegan account, in the vegan account. Mm-hmm. And the male grooming suggested click was significantly higher than the vegan keyword. And vice versa, on the male grooming account, when we bid on the vegan supplements keyword and the male grooming keyword, the vegan keyword had a significantly higher cost per click. And both of them had higher suggested bids for like the wrong keyword, because it was a less relevant keyword, right? So Amazon's going to charge you more because they've indexed your product. They know what it is. You're bidding on something that you don't score well for at all. So yeah, it's that kind of indexation. They know your relevance to the keyword, and so that's going to impact the cost per click as well. So that's why bidding on other brands is going to have higher cost per clicks than those other brands. And so that's where I say Amazon's saying this is what other bidders are paying for this keyword. I don't buy that. Because for either the example I just stated or for brands, if you're bidding on your own brand and it's saying like, oh yeah, 50 cents, and you're bidding on a competitor's brand and it's saying $3, mm-hmm. That's based on the strength of your product for the keyword. It's not because, people are only paying 30 cents on your keyword, but they're paying $5 to defend their own brand. No, they're getting the same experience. And anybody anywhere is going to see that same thing, where if they're bidding on a competitor's brand, the CPCs are going to be higher, and your own brand's CPCs are going to be lower. So it's really less about how much other people are paying, and it seems to me, because Amazon doesn't say this, Amazon just says it's based on what other people are paying. But I think it's a combination of, what is the average bid, because it is an auction, right? But they're also kind of factoring in your relevant score into what your cost per click, basically what they're going to charge you. And so the suggested bid is basically saying, here's what we're going to charge you to get impressions and clicks.
Yeah. So
one last thing. Because they said, because in their definition, they said it's what other advertisers for products such as yours are paying. In the vegan example, bidding on male grooming products, how would that even work? I can almost guarantee you there is no other vegan product that's bidding on male grooming exact match. Like, what other vegan product would be bidding on that? So I don't think they're using other similar products also bidding on that keyword to make that thing. They're really just kind of going off of, hey, other people are bidding this much, you're not relevant, so we're gonna like add a premium to that cost per click for you.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get into a situation where CPCs are higher than the suggested bid range, meaning, hey, I've been bidding on this keyword, I've been paying $1, but for some reason the high end of the bid range only goes up to 80 cents. And you're looking at this and saying, well, if I'm paying $1, that means other competitors out there are probably paying, close to that, above and below me. But for some reason, why is it that the suggested bid is still like the high end of the suggested bid is still lower than what I've actually been paying? Right. Am I not a competitor bidding on a product similar as mine, literally mine?
Right.
A little bit more weirdness.
Yeah. Going back to the vegan example, we saw an even more extreme. I guess we could call that a spread or whatever you want to call it. But the cost per click was $6. The bid was $7, the cost per click was $6, and the suggested bid, the high end was like $1. Right.
It's an extreme example.
And so it's like, okay, if this is our cost per click, and like we're getting a significant amount of traffic on it, it's like, how come the suggested bid range isn't higher? And I don't know, I might think like, well, maybe Amazon's saying, oh, your product's really great for this. So we're saying, lower suggested bid for you, but our cost per click's still really high. And it's not because of the placement settings, because obviously the bid is higher than the cost per click. So
yes. So should you use it? I'm going to go with no. When we first started this episode, I was in our notes, I was like, maybe it's got some utility to like refer to. I'm going to comment on some other things that I wish we were able to refer to, but I haven't used suggested bid in Amazon ever. I will meet clients that do use it pretty regularly, and it either does one of two things. It either gives them bad results, or it hamstrings their growth to truly understanding how to optimize their campaigns, which is how I sort of want to finish this episode, by actually talking about what you should use instead. And we have some resources that we can link to as well. But in general, real data is always going to beat out like hypothesized data. The biggest example of this is, if you are a PPC advertiser and you populate your account with 500 keywords that you got from a keyword tool, telling you that like, hey, these are keywords that are going to convert really well, and you put them in your PPC campaign, that is suggested data. And I see way too often. In fact, I think this is still the number one way to tank your results, is to throw in 500 untested keywords, watch them all get clicks, and then get frustrated when your ACoS goes up, and get frustrated when you get a whole bunch of untested clicks, because this is data coming from outside your account, putting it into your account, and you just don't know how that's going to behave. And I always use the example, like if you're putting 500 new keywords in your account untested, and all 500 of them got 10 clicks each at $1 each, you're spending $5,000 just to test a whole bunch of things and not even have that much data per keyword. That's like 10 clicks per keyword. So you could end up spending a lot of time, energy, money on things that actually are untested. So to flip this script, in general, you always want to get as much testing data for as inexpensive as possible, and then use that data to inform your next decision. So find your own suggested bid. And the way that you do that is you start by testing, inching up slowly, increasing over time, so that the next time you launch a keyword that's similar to the ones that you previously launched, previous to the same products that you've already launched, you already know where to begin with. Use those data feedback loops. Getting passionate. I'm getting impassioned, Steven. I'm getting fired up.
Nice. Yeah, I think you said it well. I don't actually have anything to add to that, I don't think.
I've got another idea.
All right, go for it.
If Amazon really wanted to help us by giving us guidance as to whether or not we should bid more or bid less, give us a metric. This is from Google Ads. Give us a metric called impression share. What is impression share? Let's say I'm bidding $1 and I have 50% impression share. That means, if I'm bidding, $1 on, I always use running shoes, Steven.
It's a good example.
If I'm bidding $1 on Badger hats, what's up?
I said it's a great example, but Badger hats is even better.
Alrighty, which I'm sporting a new one. Yours is on the way, Steven. If I'm bidding on Badger hats and I'm paying 50 cents and I'm getting clicks for 50 cents, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm getting conversions at 50 cents. Impression share would tell me whether or not it is worth it to increase it. Meaning it would say like, hey, you're getting conversions at 50 cents, but did you know your impression share is only 10% of impressions? Meaning you're only getting visibility 10% of the time when people are searching for Badger hats. Meaning there's I'm missing out on 90% of impressions that people are searching for, telling me that if I were to bid more, if I did have a higher CPC, I'd probably capture more of that. So impression share would be like the amount, like how good my bid is at entering the auction. Because it's almost like, hey, like you entered the auction, but you didn't make it into the main event room. You were in the ante room, just hanging out there waiting. You didn't have a bid strong enough to actually get visibility.
Right.
You didn't have a bid strong enough to even raise your hand up in the auction room. So impression share to me would be the metric that would really inform what it is that we should be bidding.
Right.
Like, should we be bidding more? I don't know. What's our impression share? Like, that would be huge.
That would be massive, because even in the month of June, for one client account, we saw a pretty significant drop in impressions and sales simultaneously. But But when we did the Amazon search term report, what month did I say? Did I say June? I said June, right?
You said June.
For a second, I thought I said July. But when we looked at
the future,
the Amazon search frequency rank report, which we've talked about on previous episode, Brand Analytics Part 1, we saw that
search frequency rank for those that miss it?
Search frequency rank is Amazon has a ranking system for how frequently certain search terms are searched on a scale of from number 1 being the most popular search thing on Amazon to like, I don't know, like some, like I think it goes up to 1 million or something like that. And if it's beyond 1 million, they don't count it. Or they don't rank it. But we saw that there was a pretty significant dip in, like, the rank really dropped off. It dropped off from like 66,000th most frequently searched term to like 166,000th. So thankfully we had that to show the client and be like, we're doing everything we can. We're still containing number 1 ad placement spots, stuff like that. But if you're not a brand registered owner or you're on Vendor Central, like if you don't have access to seller to brand analytics, that's going to cause a problem. 1, 2, that still doesn't show you the search volume. That just shows you the rank in relation to everything else. Like we don't know, what if there was a sudden boom on Amazon search traffic that same month? And so even though it dropped in search rank, it still had the same amount of impressions. There was just more that seeing total impressions for a search term and seeing impression share would be absolutely massive. That's a great observation, Mike.
Mm-hmm. Oh, thank you. Other things. So we have other resources about what to do instead, and it is worth you taking time to research these. Briefly, we will touch on these things. We have a blog post, which we will link to in the show notes and link to if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're reading the blog post. We have how to bid on new Amazon PPC campaigns. So when you're first launching a keyword and you really are truly lost, we generally recommend an inching up approach, which means start low, start with a low bid, 20 cents, 30 cents, pretty darn low. Gradually increase it once you're observing how many clicks you get. So if you launch at 20 cents and you're not getting anything, then you increase it. That's for complete beginners. After a while, you will probably understand that, hey, like I'm just going to start at $1. Like that's still relatively low for me, but I'm going to like save some time. So you'll want to judge for yourself if you're very price sensitive, start very low, and you will eventually work your way up towards a bid that is going to make sense for that particular keyword with that particular product. We have a blog post on it. Yeah.
And if you guys have any follow-up questions on this topic, if you have your own experiences that you want to share with us, let us know. Hit us up on our website. Call us in. What's that number again, Mike, to call and leave a voicemail?
833-BADGERS.
Badgers with a Z?
With a Z. Yes.
And or hit us up on LinkedIn. We love to respond to you guys, engage with you guys.
I might make that my actual phone number.
Do it, man.
It's a good phone number.
I'll call you up.
There you go. Have a good one, everybody.